Welcome back to the Just Because podcast, a podcast about all things life and cosplay. Guess what? I'm back again. It's Jeremy. Okay, so guess what? This time we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to be still talking about cosplay, but we're going to venture down a little alleyway in which some of you might have walked down before. Now, with this particular guest today, you would have seen them around at conventions. Maybe you recognize them by face. Maybe you recognize them by their fame. Maybe you've just seen where they've been published. They're all over the internet. They're all over in hard copies, all over your favorite newspapers and libraries. In fact, you're probably going to see some selling very soon on eBay for a very inflated price with how rare these things are getting. But everybody, I'd like to welcome today the editor-in-chief of the wonderful cosplay magazine in Australia, of Colin Magazine. It's Remi. Hello, Remi.
Hello.
Thank
you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for coming along. I hope that introduction was accurate. I don't really know too much about where you guys are published or how kind of big the scope of things is getting now, or...
Definitely not library level yet, but we have seen them come up on eBay, so... not too far off the truth.
That's pretty flattering, I think. Just people's like, wow, I'm having some... it's valuable enough that I think, I'm done with this treasure. I want to pass it on to somebody else, and I see value in that. So that's kind of flattering in a way, I think.
Yeah, it still blows our mind. When I first heard that people were reselling them, I was like, really? Like, you want to resell us? Like, thanks. It was a very strange experience, I think, seeing that for the first time. And I mean, just with how hard some of our earlier copies are to get, it does kind of make sense, but it is flattering. It definitely makes the heart feel warm.
Well, absolutely. Now, for anybody who doesn't know you, or for anyone who doesn't know what you do or what Colin Magazine's all about, could you just give us a quick little introduction, please?
100%. So I'm Remi. I'm the editor-in-chief, the cult leader, head brain cell, you could say, of Colin Magazine. And we are a cosplay and pop culture magazine based in Melbourne, Australia. Small team of 5, and essentially we're a magazine that just hopes to uplift, inspire, and nurture the growing cosplay and pop culture community that we have here in Australia, as well as across the pond in New Zealand. And yeah, we cover cosplay, D&D, LARPing, essentially fashion. If you were to think of a convention in a magazine, that would probably be us.
Now, I think if you're in Australia, it would have been pretty difficult to not see where Colin's been. They've been around conventions. You see people just talking about it. It's been all the way online everywhere. And I think there's even like an Instagram template some people have made for like, oh wow, I was on the cover of Colin Magazine.
Yeah.
This is the picture I'd use. And I think that's really cool for people to kind of look at. But, obviously this is a project that's been going for, 2-3 years now?
Yeah, so we're actually coming up, this year will be the 5th year of Colin.
Wow.
Well, Colin, essentially, but in 2 weeks, it'll be the anniversary of the 3rd year anniversary of our very first print edition.
Wow. So if it's 5 years, that means you guys like started online? It was like an online publication or something?
Yeah, so started online as just like a blog in 2019. That was kind of just testing the waters. I was fresh out of university, was starting a full-time role, and then the pandemic hit.
Yep.
And pretty much there were no conventions. Cosplay was kind of just becoming a thing you were doing in your house. And so we moved the online website just to the Instagram because... Yep. Websites can be expensive to run. And then I guess, I recruited some of my friends and we decided at probably the end of 2020, early 2021, that we were going to actually give this a proper go and release our very first print edition.
That's really cool. Now, you yourself are a cosplayer? Because I've only ever met you out of cosplay, I think, so I don't think I've really seen you
yes,
cosplay.
I'm a cosplayer.
Now, what actually spawned the idea for wanting to do a magazine or wanting to feature people or wanting to just learn more about the cosplay world, especially around Australia? What was the motivation or behind starting something like this?
Yeah, so growing up as a cosplayer, I mean, where like the time that when I started cosplaying, there really wasn't much around. I started probably 2010,
Yeah, yep.
2011, showing my age there a little bit. But yeah, all the resources that were available to me or to people were all based overseas. So, it was, Americans using American material or things that were readily available to them, where there wasn't really anything like that for us Aussies.
Yeah.
And like, I went to conventions, but I never really felt like a part of the community.
Right.
And so I decided, hey, why not just give it a go and create some resources or just even create a bit of inspiration for people like me to go to feel like they're, included and a part of something, or even just letting them know different places they can go in Australia to get things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how it started. It really was just wanting to help people like myself who maybe didn't feel comfortable, going out and reaching out to people. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
That's really interesting because I think everybody, without a doubt, who does cosplay, it doesn't matter if you're in Australia or if you're from overseas, you first thing you do is obviously you get into cosplay, like, wow, this is fun, and you obviously want to try and meet people and make a circle of friends. And I think the word you do use there is quite big. The word community is just wanting to become part of, involved with something. And I don't know if you had the same experience as me, but when you kind of talk to people, you kind of know them and you kind of know them well, but you're not really good friends. And so, should I reach out to them and ask them about that cool thing that they made, or is that going to be too forward? And I think it's like you said too, because 2010, 2011, same thing. You're growing up, you're like, oh, let's look at this. Oh wow, New Type USA, or what else was around at the time? God,
I think it was.
Cosmode or something in Japan was another one.
Yeah, or even just like some of the YouTubers that were online at the time showing tutorials, and a lot of it was, I think, Warbler had just kind of become a
Yes.
thing, but you could not get it anywhere in Australia, or if you did, you'd be selling your kidney to get one
Yeah,
to get some.
absolutely. Oh God, I used Warbler. I just moved house. I had a big roll, which was. And anyone doesn't know this, Warbler also has an expiry date. People are like, yeah, if you cover your phone, it's going to last forever. No, no, no. That Warbler will start to crack. It'll start to become dry and brittle and crack. So I had this big roll that I just threw away because you just kind of bend it a little bit, it just snaps. So I'm like,
Oh,
oh. So Warbler, yeah, that was the thing, but it's not eternal, so don't worry about it. Back to what I talked about. It's funny that you mentioned that because there was nothing around. You know WCS, World Cosplay Summit, the organisation.
yes.
I had this chat with Maya. They actually had a magazine very similar to what you guys are doing. Online print version, PDF only. They only did like 2 editions or something, and they just stopped.
Yeah.
And you guys have obviously maintained it and kept on going for obviously up to 5 years now. For yourself, what do you think is keeping Colin alive versus just, we tried it once or twice and that's it? So what's keeping it alive?
That's actually a question I've never actually thought about before, but honestly, the community. I think the community and the team. I can't fault my team. We're so small, but each and every person is just so passionate and just so good at what they do. That, even if I think in the beginning it was really hard, like particularly with a print magazine,
Absolutely.
and no one quite knows no one quite reads print magazines, or they didn't at that point anymore. And so, we really, we really were like, yeah, a dying medium. Let's give that a go. And so, if it wasn't for the team and how passionate they are, and then the community that we've built, we really do it for the community. And seeing, like, even if I'm there at 3 a.m. editing, wanting to quit, I'm over it, like, because it is a lot of hard work.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's those interactions that we've had with the community that we've built that keep us going, and keep us passionate about what we do. Just an example is one of the first conventions we ever went to, and it was the first time that we actually saw people's reactions to the magazine in
Yeah.
person, because at that point, conventions weren't really on, and so, you know, we were selling copies, but we didn't, it was all online. We didn't have that face-to-face interaction. And one of the cosplayers that was in it, and they'd submitted their photo, and we'd included it, saw themselves in the magazine for the first time. And there's something about that moment for people when they see themselves in something that, we were so small at the time.
Yeah.
So it's, but seeing themselves in print, seeing themselves a part of a community, and, alongside some of these bigger cosplayers that they may have looked up to, I think that moment and the look in their eyes, and it's just something that you will never forget. And it's something that just every time I'm feeling like, oh, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I've been up for 24 hours
Yeah.
now, hit this deadline, but I just remember those moments and the impact that we're making on people. It's so hard to explain, but it's just when you see it for the first time or continue to see it, it's just, I don't know, it just makes my heart just so full
So
and
full.
warm, and it just makes it so worth it.
No, I'm really glad that you say that's what keeps it worthy for you, because I think that's what it would be for anybody if they're chasing something which doesn't exactly pay off, I suppose, in the ways that you'd expect it to. If you don't mind me asking, everyone doing Colin, like, are they all volunteers for it, or are they all like paid positions, or what is it?
Yeah, so none of us get paid. So Colin, our margins are so small that pretty much any money that is made goes back into Colin.
Yeah,
So none of us get paid. Everyone works full time outside of Colin.
yeah,
So yeah, definitely you'd have to we have a saying at Colin Magazine that when you join Colin, you're not joining, you're not just joining a magazine team, you're joining a family, but you're also taking on the Colin lifestyle.
What does the Colin lifestyle include at this point in time?
Oh, it takes over. Colin takes over every aspect. It's you like an example. So one of our writers, Maddie, when she first joined, she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna be like part-time, I'm just gonna do a couple articles here and there, help out where I can." Oh no. No, 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 no.
Just
We're
next,
like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll
yeah,
do that.
one or two articles. That's all you need. And next minute she's writing the bulk of the everything, I suppose, by the sounds of it.
Next minute we're going to conventions. You know, we're sending people out to go and try new things. Colin tries as a part of the magazine, and so we're always trying new things in the community. And for her, Maddie takes a lot of the craft and the tutorials. So, you know, one day she's making yarn wigs, the next day she's crocheting a cosplay. So it really does take on a lot of the aspects of your life. And then because we're all such really good friends
Yeah.
as well, we go on what we call Colin adventures, which really is just us hanging out, but going to go do something exciting. But somehow Colin manages to weave its way in there
Into
and
the
we end up
magazine.
working.
No, that's honestly really cool to see, because I don't know if you've read many magazines before Colin, or other people have read magazines around the place. I used to read stuff like something called like GBA World, which is like a Game Boy Advance magazine, and some other small like gaming things here and there. But the thing that was missing was just like, here, news, info, news, info. But this really sounds like you're bringing a lot of your individual personalities and making it a feature part of it. And I think that's really cool, because it really, I think, helps build that connection between yourselves and the community, which I think is what people love to see, which is great. But I think a big thing that I really liked there is when you mentioned, look, we did this, and then I meet the people for the first time who featured, and they've just got this look on their face and these stars in their eyes, and it just warms your heart. I honestly, I think that's wonderful and fascinating, just in the way that you're doing this, not just because it's something that's like, wow, I want to put my name out there as like a magazine editor in chief kind of person, but it's more for, wow, I get to give these opportunities to cosplayers from all over the place, big, small, somewhere in between, and see how much of an impact it has just on them as a person, on their self-esteem, on their confidence, just to say, hey, wow, like it's like something to aim for at this point, to be featured in Colin Magazine. And
Yeah.
do you think that was like an aim from the start? To it's like, I want to build a platform for people to say, hey, I want to be part of this, or was it just, oh, let's just make something fun and see if people want to join?
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, part of why I started this is to uplift people. That is one of the things that I have always like tried to do. Is if there's so much negativity in the world, people constantly trying to tear other people down. And what we wanted to create was a place where people could not only feel inspired, but could feel like they're uplifted. They could feel like, like just like I said, that moment of seeing themselves next to people that they've looked up to, is that for us is what we had hoped to do. And we're doing that, which is super great. But definitely was something that we wanted from the beginning. Yeah, impact, inspire, and uplift are the three things that we have always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And everything we do will connect to that somehow.
That's great.
So,
no, I really, honestly, I think you found like a very tangible way of putting that uplifting, giving it to other people, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people say, and I will say this just straight up, just a lot of people say, oh, I want to become inspirational to people. I want to become, people look up to me. But when it comes to cosplay, and I say this to all of them, and whenever they say that to me, it's like, what's your goal? It's like, oh, I want to be an inspiration. I was like, cool. Like, how do you plan on doing that? And, a lot of the time there is no tangible answer. It's just, oh, I want to make good costumes and look good. And hopefully people like me for my look. And I'm like, that's kind of like looking up to a model and say, yeah, I want to be good looking just like you. But there's no real, platform which to help them grow with you, or say like, hey, come and join this thing, which I'll help you as well. Or, I want to feature you as a friend that I'm cosplaying with this, my next costume or something. But for this, you've actually given them a platform to say, hey, look, this is our little staircase and this little pedestal. I'd like you stand on top of this and we'll take photos of it, kind of thing. So I think it's really cool that you've kind of made something like that. Now,
thank you.
I got to ask this question because you're probably not the first person to be asked, or not the last person either. The name Colin, where does that come from?
This question.
Yeah. Here we go.
If I had a dime for every time I've been asked this question, and in hindsight, we should have seen it coming. Okay, so Colin. Okay, so here's the thing. Colin isn't just cosplay. It is a convention in a magazine. It's so many different aspects, and we didn't want to limit ourselves to just cosplay. We wanted to keep it broad. And also, so we have a character. So our mascot, you could say, his name is Colin.
Okay.
And so essentially we're named after our mascot. And what Colin is, so I'll give you a quick little rundown of who he is. So Colin is a robot.
Okay.
He's one of a kind. He's the only robot by chance that has, had something happen to him, and now he has artificial intelligence. He's aware, and he's the only one of his kind, which for a security robot who was built to be terrifying to people, he just wants to connect, and he just wants to, be a part of a community.
Okay.
And so we wrote a story for him where it's about him, and he's got a origin story on our website, and there's a comic in the magazine that comes every couple of editions or so. And it really is about him finding his place in a world that essentially built him to not be a part of. His whole job as a robot, as a security robot, was to scare people away.
Yeah. But he doesn't want that. He wants the connection. He wants the community. He wants to be part of something.
Yeah, and so he is so symbolic of a cosplayer, I guess, entering this world for the first time. You might feel a little uncomfortable, a little anxious, a little shy, but at the end of the day, it really is about wanting to be a part of a community and finding your place in that community, or building that community for yourself. And so that is why we're called Colin, is because we're named after him. Essentially, we like to think we're named after the community.
Okay. Is that character like an OC that you designed yourself, or a story that you were writing, or what? Where did they come from?
Yeah, so actually, so the original origins actually came from my mum. As random as
Thank
that
you,
is.
Remi's mum. Okay.
Yes. So she was definitely instrumental in creating the idea of Colin, and then I helped write, I guess, the bulk.
Flesh out his
So
backstory and
like
his
that's the word
yeah.
I was looking for.
Okay.
Flesh him out, and make those connections and bring him back to the community and things like that.
So did
And
you get
there's
out
a
a
bunch
piece
of
of paper one day and just draw a robot or several iterations of one and said, "Yep, that's Colin."
Well, actually, so she actually just came up with the idea. So she is a really big fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Gotcha.
And there's a robot in there called Colin, and she loves him.
Okay.
Loves the robot Colin. And so she's just like, that. And I went, okay. Aye, Captain.
Colin it
Took it
is.
from there.
So he's essentially a character from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or that's where it kind of spawned, was from a character from one of your mum's favorite movies.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I know. It's so random and obscure. And then I worked with an incredible artist called Little Bink, who many may know from the convention scene.
Oh, little Bink Bonk from Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
So I worked with her on actually designing the look and feel of Colin. So his characteristics. I sent her a mood board, and we went back and forth a little bit on getting him exactly the way that I had pictured him looking. And then that's how I guess he became.
Has he been the centerpiece since edition 1, or did his design kind of get released at a later stage?
His design released in edition 2. So
Wow.
we had just missed the deadline for edition 1. And I think as well, edition 1 was our first time kind of hitting, like, we'd been around, but it was our first time in print form. So it was our first time kind of hitting the market, you could say,
Yeah.
in the format that we're known for today. So it was a lot of trial and error for us in that edition. So I'm kind of, even though we wanted to release him around that time, I'm kind of glad we didn't. I'm glad it waited until edition 2, because we learnt a lot from edition 1, and so his release was a lot smoother.
I'm glad. Now, obviously, in releasing each edition or releasing a publication, which is a physical print magazine, as you say, a dying media, but it's obviously still alive and kicking because people still like seeing them in various shapes and forms. There's other magazines overseas. There's some magazines in Australia. What do you think you've kind of seen from other magazines, taken onto and put into Colin to kind of learn from, but also what do you think separates Colin apart from other publications that are similar to, a cosplay and lifestyle kind of magazine?
Yeah, so I think when we were putting together like the print version of Colin and what we wanted it to look and feel like, we took a lot of inspiration from Vogue.
Okay.
Like, if you're to think of when we really sat down and looked at it, we're like, okay, well, what are the best publications that people look up to, that people aspire to, to be in or to contribute to, or, even just love to love. And Vogue was the one that kept coming up, and probably because each and every one of us is like, oh, Vogue magazine.
Fashionista, slay. Yeah, easy.
But looking at like the history of that magazine and what it stood for, what it strives to do, and we were like, oh yeah, okay, let's be Vogue of the convention world. So let's take this, because I think that's the thing about Vogue, right? Is they try to create a piece of art every time.
Yeah.
Something that people would want in their homes, would want on you want it on your coffee table.
Absolutely.
And so we're like, that's what we want to be. If we're going to be expecting people to purchase a print magazine, we want it to be something that they're going to want to display. It's a photo book. It's it's a piece of inspiration. It's a
Yeah.
piece of community that we want them to be able to proudly showcase in their homes. We don't want it to just be something that you read and throw away, like, Total Girl, or some of those
Yeah.
magazines that you have as a kid, but still retain the nostalgia of getting a magazine and opening it up and seeing the pages. We still wanted to retain that feeling, but combining all those elements. And so that's probably yeah, where yeah, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Now, just by the sounds of it, are you someone who like always grew up, buying magazines or looking at that kind of thing? Because I think every kid in their life, as some geek or nerd in some way, would have purchased like a K-Zone magazine, or like a what a
Yeah.
mate, or like one of those Disney Kids magazine, and as you go up, there's Total Girl, there's I know now there's Men's Fitness, there's everything like that. So we've all been exposed to magazines. If you're already on the Better Homes and Gardens, you're years ahead of me. But we've all been exposed to magazines in some way, shape, or form. But is that something that you feel like, yeah, I want to do specifically when I do cosplay, like a magazine? Because you said you started out as like a blog, and it could have been anything. It could have been a blog. It could have been a YouTube channel. It could have been a compilation of TikToks just under a particular brand. But what made you decide on a magazine specifically?
So, I mean, we had always wanted to do a print version
Print
of
version,
it.
okay.
So that was always the goal, I think. But, back then when we did start the blog, it was time, money, experience. As someone who was, when Colin started, I was finishing my third degree at uni. So time was not something that was, as easily available
Yeah.
to me at that point. And I would say, yeah, like it had always been the goal, for me growing up. So I've grown up, my parents were never together. So, and they actually lived on opposite sides of the country. So for me, it was like, I remember going to the airport, getting a magazine, jumping on the plane with the air stewardess, sitting next to you, and opening that magazine and just having a couple hours of just, reading and games and crosswords and playing with the little free things that, freebies that it came with. And then, I grew out of the kids magazines, and, it would be on the weekend, you'd go and you'd get, the dolly, and you'd read the secret
Secret
section.
section.
Section. You're like, oh, oh my gosh, clutching my pearls.
Yep.
But and then that evolved, and I think so magazines and print media, and I was a big book reader as a kid, so that physical kind of act of reading and experiencing, magazines has always kind of been a part of my life. And so yeah, it was a no-brainer for me that if we would jump in this dying breed art form, we'd give it a go. It just seemed natural.
But it looks like what you guys have decided on is it's kind of like you print by order. So whoever orders it, we're going to run a batch of those, and no more, no less. That's what it's going to be, or
Kind of. So we do pre-order. So I think we're the only magazine I have ever seen that has done pre-orders.
yeah, wow.
So it was a lot of trial and error, but we do pre-order. So people, because once we print in bulk, and once we sell out, we never reprint again.
Yeah.
Or we hadn't until the most recent edition. But essentially, yes, so we'll do a pre-order, and based on what our pre-order numbers are, then we'll make our bulk order. And then, we then go to conventions with the rest of bulk, and what goes. And once that goes, it's very unlikely that
Yeah.
we reprint.
So it makes
Hence why it's so hard to get some of those earlier editions.
it's really cool that you have kind of set it up though, because it really puts value on every single edition that comes out. It's like, look, this is a limited run. I know who and what is featured in here. We're only going to print this once. And it's not like, wow, look at our weekend activity on the summer of 2023. Look at our picnic. It's more, it looks like what you're including in the magazine is evergreen in a way, in which like this is information which is going to be something that's valuable no matter when you read it. Which is really cool. But obviously being exposed to all these different magazines, you would have seen what you like to read, what you hate seeing in a magazine, you just flick straight through it. And it could be in anything from, crappy articles to, I don't know, Barbara's weekend picnic brunch section. You're like, oh my God, skip that. Or even just weird ads, right? But is there anything, before we get into what you do want to include, what kind of things have you purposely said, I don't ever want to include this kind of content in our magazine for whatever reason? Is there anything like that pops up?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest, no.
Okay.
We are open to printing anything. If the community wants to read it, we will put it out. The only caveat with that is if it doesn't meet our objective, it's not going in it.
Okay. So what's like your objective or like your ethos that says, right, this is what I have to include? What is it?
If it doesn't uplift, if it doesn't inspire, and it doesn't create impact in some way, and by impact, I mean positive impact.
Yeah.
So that could be, we have articles that are in there purely just to give people a giggle. We've got articles in there just to put a smile on people's faces. But if it doesn't do one of those three things, it won't make it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, if it's negative, if it's, unproductive, we don't see the need to print things like that.
Got it. I think that's a really cool thing to stand by, because it probably makes it quite easy to be like, do I include this or does I not include it? And you're like, falls in the ethos? Nope. Oh, easy. That's pretty cool. So have you probably, again, I haven't got my hands on a physical copy just yet. I do see the features, but we'll get to that in just a second. But one last thing is advertisements. Have you had any, businesses, cosplay, supply stores or anything like reach out to you, be like, hey, we'd like to kind of have a feature in your magazine or have like an advertisement page? Have you featured any of that yet in the magazine?
In some of our earlier editions, we did have one brand reach out. I think for me, it's so hard. I think maybe, and this is probably my weakness.
Yeah.
This is probably something I need to work on personally. Colin probably needs me to work on this, and at some point I will. But I think for me, we do have pages available in the magazine for advertising.
Okay.
And I have said, if a brand wants to advertise, as long as it, it makes sense for the magazine, like it's not like we would put, a men's tool build, well, maybe actually that might work for cosplay, but like a auto mechanic, no, that could still work. But like a house building business, you know?
Yeah.
We're not going to include something like that as an advertiser. Not that they would want to advertise with us anyway.
Yeah.
But, if they wanted to, we would explore it and, then they would be included. And so we've had one business that has been included in one of the earlier editions. And I've always said those advertising pages are available to everyone.
Yeah.
Artists in the community. And if you're a small business just starting out, we've always said we will let you advertise for free.
Oh, that's cool.
So we really should be taking advertising, like more brand paid advertising. But I struggle personally going out and asking people for that. So I would much rather give the pages to people who are starting out or artists that are dropping a new collection or, working with someone really cool and helping their business grow. I'd rather do that. But Colin probably needs me to work a little harder on the other thing.
Oh dear. Just on that, because you said I don't really like reaching out to this brand to ask for XYZ or whatever it is. But in the start, especially when, edition 1, edition 2, you were just kind of finding your feet, just kind of establishing what you're all about. you would have had to reach out to, some cosplayers to be like, hey, we're doing this magazine, would you like to feature in it? Obviously, I'm guessing you've got to the stage now in which you don't really need to do that as much these days, because you probably have people wanting to feature in the magazine and sending you emails, sending you messages saying like, hey, let's apply, all these kinds of things. Getting to the feature pages of both the cover and the feature articles and whatever's inside, how does that application process work for you guys? Is it something which you still reach out to them? Do people reach out to you? How does that work?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. I don't think I've ever actively publicly said how we do this. So the let's take the cover for
Let's take the cover, yeah.
Because it is a little bit different. So the cover is our featured cosplayer of that edition. We always will go out and reach out to that cosplayer. I don't think I've ever had anyone message me being like, can I please be on the cover?
On the cover, yeah.
I don't think I've ever had that. So we always are actively going out and finding that person. And that selection process, so that's something that I do and the team have input into. But it really is, for me, the person on that cover is the person that we want to inspire the community for that edition. And so usually what we'll do is we'll look at their story. What story are they telling? What has their journey been? What can they teach, the community? And so an example would be Maya. Maya was our Edition 6 cosplayer, and they were on our cover, and I think you guys had just kind of started preparing for Japan
WCS,
at that point. Yeah, and so we wanted to, and we had previously interviewed Maya in, I think, Edition 1. I think she was one of the early
all the way back, yeah.
And yeah, like the story for us with that was, that is where she was then. This is where she is now, going to Japan, representing Australia. And she'd had, I think Melody Parade, was really kicking off. They're about to release their first original single. Yep. And we wanted to tell that story. How did she go from, way back then to where she is now, and COVID and how that impacted and things like that. So we really wanted to tell that story. And so it really is about the person, their personal journey in cosplay, or, we're never limiting it to cosplay. It could be, an artist. It could be a photographer. It really is about that story and what they can teach the readers, or teach us, I think.
That's a really cool thing to think about, because just from memory, every cosplayer featured so far, they've all been Australian or from New Zealand. Is that right?
Yes. So I think they've all been Australian. Not like that. That wasn't something that we were like, they must be Aussie. We have tried to diversify, like, who, what their skills are, what they're good at, what their experience has been.
Yeah.
And then as well, we look at the photographers as well, who took those photos. Really great example is Edition 8, which is available for pre-order. I don't know when this is going out, but
this will be out. Let me look at the date real quick. 10th, 17th, 17th or the 24th. So it's going to be on a Monday. Today is the 7th for anyone listening, and June the 7th. I try to stay ahead of schedule. All right. So this will probably be out before the end of June.
Awesome. So it is, I'm hoping that it'll be available then. But Edition 8, our cover cosplayer is Feli. Oh, I always struggle to say the name. Her name is Felicia. She's an incredible cosplayer, or Feli Poke You, which is her Instagram handle or cosplay name. And she is a cosplayer from Malaysia who now lives in Australia. And most of her photos are actually taken by her husband.
That's cute.
And the story with them is about how they do cosplay together. So I'm not going to give too much away. It's a very interesting story. I'm always in awe when I hear them talk about their journey. And, you know, they build sets in their house, and it is something that they do together, and how they, yeah, it's great. It's a good article.
We're gonna read it.
I'm not biased, but it is every feature we've done has been amazing. And this is just as amazing as all the others. But
yeah. No, that's really interesting to hear, that there's primarily not just someone who is good at cosplay or someone that looks good. It's someone who has something that they can show that will, in a tangible way, inspire or motivate people through not just what they can do, but also through the story and how they've gotten to where they are today because of what they've been through. And
yeah.
Oh, it's so nice to hear. It's so nice to hear. Also, because I know on the inside pages, you've also got other cosplayers being featured. I know in the upcoming edition, Tony, the cosplay coach, who's been on this podcast as well, he's featured in there as well. But for anyone who kind of has a feature spot as well, not quite the cover spot, but in a feature spot, are those people who sent in an application, or that do also reach out for those stories as well?
I usually always reach out. And again, it is very similar thing. It is, what is their story? What can they teach? How can they inspire? What can we learn from them? Tony is a really good example, because, you know, it really was about his journey of growth and how he used cosplay to guess, help find himself and the confidence. And so, you know, he's got a really interesting story. And so it is similar. There is also some submissions that we do get that go in the magazine. Usually they're not featured, like the featured interviews, because usually that's me sitting down and having a conversation and learning about them. But a really great example, again, in this edition, is Nick the Pix and Tabuti. So they're two best friends from Queensland,
Brisbane.
I believe.
Yeah, they live down the road.
Yeah. They are two best friends that cosplay together, and Tabuti actually submitted that article. So she wrote about her experience cosplaying with her best friend. And so, you know, we do feature things like that as well. So it really depends on what comes in, and
it's a mixed bag of whatever you receive in the email one morning and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
That's really cool. With that one, just the whole submission process, and obviously people wanting to submit their photos. I know there's like a big photo wall of featured cosplayers, which is really cool as well. But cover cosplayers, and this is for anybody listening specifically, for anyone who's like, wow, I really want to feature in Colin Magazine. It's not the first time I've heard those exact words come out of someone's mouth. Right? It's really nice to hear. But for anyone who's like, wow, featured cosplayer, or I want to have my story because I've got a good story to tell, what is something that you or the team kind of look out for when you are scrolling Instagram, or, you know, just looking through profiles or looking at content? What's something that really kind of stands out to you guys as someone who's doing the headhunting for your articles? What are you looking out for? What are you trying to find with people's posts or the personalities? What stands out to you?
Yeah, so I'd actually say it's less social media. So the way we scout is, you know, it's a little bit social media, which most of the time, so we do have a submission portal on our website. So there's a little submission form where we do encourage everyone all year round to submit cosplay photos, articles, article ideas. You know, if they have an idea for something, we always encourage people to reach out. And from that, we are able to discover a lot of new cosplayers. You know, they'll submit their cosplay, and then we'll be like, oh, this is so cool. And so we'll go to their Instagram, and then we'll have a bit of a scroll, and we'll check them out. And, you know, then it's at that point, it's like, okay, mental note. It's like, that was really cool. They look like they really enjoy cosplaying. And, oh, like, did you see, like, you know, that one post they made about, you know, building that one thing and how they did it with recycled materials, as an example, you know? And, you know, that's a mental note for us. So then when we're going later on, and we might be putting together an article on recycled materials, and we'll be like, oh, that one cosplayer, don't forget, The other way we do it is we're at a lot of the conventions. And so when we're at a convention, we like to have conversations with cosplayers. We do, mini interviews with people at conventions with our little mic set up, if anyone sees us with our little mics. We do have those conversations, or even when we're at our table and people come up and have a chat to us, we love hearing people's stories. And so, people come up to the table and they might just be like, oh, this is really cool. And we'll be like, okay, new person.
Yes.
Let's start cosplaying. And we ask a couple questions and we start to try to, I guess, get to know as many new people as we can, because you never know who's out there. You never know what their story is. And so it's kind of a mixed bag of just trying to be as involved in the community as we can be and talk to as many different people as we can. Or, when people are submitting, we really do look into, like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Where are you from? What do you do? Kind of vibes. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Just for yourself as well, just with that, let's say, the vetting process or that screening process for meeting people, because I know that's how we kind of had a chat at DreamHack a few weeks ago with, just getting to know people and meeting people. This is a multi-layered question, this one. But firstly, is that something that comes naturally to you, meeting people, walking up to people and talking to them? Is that something the whole Colin team is used to, or is it something that you kind of have to get out of your comfort zone and force yourself to talk to people?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you asked this question, because I think a lot of people don't realize I talk to a lot of people nowadays, but I remember and this is another reason why I started Colin, because I wanted to create a community and get to know more people. I didn't know many cosplayers. It was just, I didn't know many people who even liked anime.
Yeah.
Like, it was just me and, my friend who came to the convention just to be supportive, but she just wants to go home and watch The Bachelorette. Like,
each to their own. Each to their own. No shade thrown.
So, it really, Colin has definitely taught me how to talk to people.
I'm glad.
And there will be times where I'm like, oh, I should go and say hi. And I'm like, oh, but I'm so shy. It's like, no, put that smile on your face and you go say hello. And so you got to push yourself to, the team are constantly pushing me as well. And I'm constantly pushing the team, those early days, we were all kind of like, oh, I don't know. I'm not good at this. And then you just got to get out of your comfort zone and just go and do it. And now it comes a little bit more naturally. Like, I think I came and said hello, or at DreamHack.
Yeah.
You kind of get a little bit, you get better at it the more you do it. So constantly trying to meet new people and get better at talking.
You're doing good. I'm very proud of you. Look at your journey. Look how far you've come.
I remember in the early days, I was terrified.
You're doing good. You're doing real good.
Thank you.
Little plug for anybody who doesn't know, I mention this every bloody episode. I teach social skills and confidence. So if you're someone like Remi who has taught themselves awesome work, good on you. Keep going. But if you're still struggling, send me a DM. I got you. I can help with this, okay? But on that note as well, in terms of, having to talk to people, and you meet a whole bunch of different people, and you're obviously going to meet some good eggs, you're going to meet some bad eggs, you're going to meet people like, oh my god, look, they're Colin Magazine, yeah, I'm going to talk to them, kind of thing. You would have had, a wide variety of different people chatting to you, just because the vibes are good, just because, they seem someone who's cool, but there's also people who want to be featured or whatever, for whatever reason. How have you found navigating that, especially as someone who says, I'm not really naturally on top of wanting to go and talk to people, and you've also had to kind of navigate these social situations? How have you found that, or have you had experiences like that, which it hasn't been 100% positive, I suppose?
I mean, I think even putting Colin aside, as a cosplayer, you're always going to have
absolutely
not the best conversations. Sometimes people don't quite understand what you're doing. Anyone that's cosplayed in public will know that sometimes people will come up to you and be like, oh, what are you doing you know? And sometimes it can be quite an awkward conversation, and sometimes you'll be at a convention and get into a very uncomfortable conversation. And I think it is, yeah, just one thing that I've learned is always come from a place of, like, always come from a place of empathy. Like, I think it's, let's say, that you're cosplaying in public and you're doing a photo shoot at the local park. That person coming up to you is not coming up to you out of a place of negativity most of the time. I mean, I've never had a super, like, someone be like, get out of my park.
Yeah.
But they're coming to talk to you because they're inquiring about what you're doing.
Yeah.
This might be something they've never seen before. When you're at a convention and you might be in a very uncomfortable conversation, that person may just not have the best social skills and may not be picking up on the social cues that you're uncomfortable. And so just coming from a place of empathy and understanding that, it may not be on purpose. And if it is, like, that's really upsetting. Please don't hurt people's feelings on purpose. Don't make people uncomfortable on purpose.
Yep.
But most of the time, no one wants to make people uncomfortable. And so coming from a place of empathy, I think that's the biggest thing that I've learnt in situations like that. It's like, they're not trying to make you uncomfortable. They might just not know that they're even making you uncomfortable.
That's a really good thing to keep in mind, just the statement of empathy. I think for a lot of, especially guys that I coach, that's exactly what I'm trying to teach, if anything. It's just like, look, there's going to be times which you're doing your best. You may have the right things to say and everyone's having a good time. Sometimes you're making them very uncomfortable and you just don't know it. Okay? And look, you're trying, you're doing your best, but don't beat yourself up because, you're doing your best, just learn from it. But I think coming from your end, which is the receiving end of, awkward conversations, I think having empathy for people who don't know as well is a great place to start because it makes it feel a lot more positive rather than like, wow, I met this weird, creepy person today. It's more like, no, I met this person who was obviously very shy and just doing their best to make some friends. The conversation was a bit weird, but, had a chat and I'm home safe and everything's good. So I think that's a really nice thing to hear from someone who is also doing their best in, meeting people and making those connections as well.
Yeah.
On that as well, because you would have had, when you get to talk to people around the place and you've got these cover cosplayers featured on your editions of the magazine and featured cosplays on the inside, have there been any times in which you've had to, I guess, turn down a submission, or is there anything that kind of sticks out to you, be like, oh, that's someone I don't want to feature for whatever reason? You also have to go through this vetting process. What kind of sticks out for that in, let's say, the negative way this time?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever really had to turn anything down per se, not from my memory. I think, but I guess because we stick to our ethos. Again, if we had to turn something down, it's because it either doesn't impact, it doesn't inspire, and it doesn't uplift. And if it doesn't do that, then I think we're pretty honest with people.
Yeah.
We're like, look, this, we will also try to work with people. So if, let's say, we got a submission and it wasn't like, it wasn't quite right, but we know that there is potential, we may not accept the submission, but we may, like, try to work with them in other ways.
Yeah.
Or we will also just be honest with people. Like, sometimes we get submissions, we're like, this is really cool, but this is not going to translate well in print. Let's see what else you have. Let's see what we can come up with. Let's find a solution for this. But yeah, I guess definitely, I think because we have our ethos and because we have, like, our mission statements, that's a very corporate-y way of saying it.
It's a good way to keep everything in line. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, because we have that, I think it does make, I guess, turning things down a little bit easier. And it's not something that we ever like doing.
Of course.
We never like turning things down. And we get quite a bit of, like, photo submissions, as an example.
Yeah.
Not every one of those photo submissions will make it in. But we're always honest with people and we say, hey, like it might not make it in, but we always keep them on file for future editions. And sometimes if the photo, like let's say we get a pretty great, like it's a cosplayer just starting out and it's a photo that we know is not going to translate in print, we'll be like, hey, let's take a mental note of this cosplayer and this photo might not make it in, but let's keep an eye on their growth and let's keep an eye on what they're doing. And, you know, there was a cosplayer who we met at a convention. She had just started cosplaying and, you know, this edition actually is the first time she's ever been featured in Colin. And, you know, we've been keeping track of this cosplayer for quite a few years now. And, you know, we helped point them in the right direction, like, how do I get cosplay photos? And we're like, you know, here's the different ways you can do it. And then, yeah, I think they finally got the courage to submit something. And now we're like, this is awesome. Like, let us give you a feature page. And so, yeah, like we always try to help point people in the right direction. So, yeah.
That's really nice. That's really nice to hear, just because I think that would definitely that would be a highlight of their year, without a doubt. Saying, I've been looking up this magazine for so long, and look, this is me, mum, look at this, and then they'll put it on the fridge, and they'll frame it, and it'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a really nice thing to kind of think about. Now, just kind of coming to the end of our chat, oh, that's flown by so fast. What is the future of Colin? What are you guys kind of aiming for? Like, are you wanting to kind of make it bigger? Are you wanting to go for 50 editions or more? Are you wanting to kind of have booths at every convention? Are you wanting to go overseas? Like, what are you guys kind of ambitious to kind of aim for at this point?
Oh, the future of Colin, I think for us, it is, it's less about the super big picture, right? It's less about we want to like I mean, yeah, we want to be able to do this full time and we want to be able to, you know, not leave a full-time job and come and do another full-time job. Like we'd like it to be full-time, but at the end of the day, it's less about the big like these big goals and more about how can we continue to impact people and what can we continue like what can we inspire people to do next. It's we look at it as little goals, you know. Our Colin Tries articles, for an example, came about because we're like, let's encourage people to try new things that they might not, you know, feel comfortable trying or not know how to start, like D&D or medieval battled armored combat. Like, let's show people that you can get involved in this stuff, how you can get involved, and inspire them to have the confidence to go and give it a go.
Yeah.
Because we went out and gave it a go, and this was our experience, and here's how you can have a cool ass experience too. It is about like how can we continue to innovate and do new things and try new things, and how can we make that next person feel confident and, you know, feel inspired or just feel uplifted.
Yeah.
It's less about the big picture and it's more about those little goals. We're always we're always going to continue for as long as Colin is around for. As long as I'm at the helm of Colin,
And
it is
by the
about,
sounds of it,
yeah.
it doesn't sound like you're slowing down or wanting to stop anytime soon, or...
Oh, no. Not anytime soon. If anything, it has gotten way more busy, which is a good thing.
That's a good thing. Have you seen, just by the sounds of it, you've seen an upward trend of more people wanting to submit things and more people wanting to get involved? It's not like, oh crap, like it's starting to dwindle. We need to ask
Yeah.
people. So it's just people are wanting to kind of get on board with that more, is it?
I would say so. I think the more people, I guess, kind of get to know what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve, I think the more people want to get involved. And I think that that's just natural. Everyone wants to feel good and everyone wants to help other people feel good. So the more we do that and the more people realize that that's what we want to do, the more they want to get involved. And I think that that is so great and so cool. And if it ever did dwindle for whatever reason, I guess we would be sad, but we'd look at why. What are we doing that is making that dwindle?
Yeah.
And how can we make it not dwindle anymore.
You're problem solving. I love this. Oh, you're an inspiration yourself. I hope you know that.
Ah, thank you.
Now, just on that, for anyone who, wants to get involved with Colin or wants to talk to you more or wants to just kind of get to know you guys more, like, are you going to be featured like at a booth at an upcoming convention? Like, do we just have to, by chance, find you somewhere, like as a rare spawn? Or what's the best way to kind of get to know you guys a bit better in that way?
Ooh, so I 100% recommend if you coming and chatting to us at a convention. We try to go to as many as possible. We're at almost all the Melbourne ones just because we're based here, but we do tend to travel interstate as much as we can. So we'll be at AusComicCon Melbourne and we'll be at AvCon at the end of June. And then hopefully another interstate con, which is not 100% confirmed yet, but we'll be hopefully confirming soon.
Yeah.
But the best way to find where we are next is our Instagram. Definitely follow us on Instagram because you'll kind of keep up to date with everything we're doing when we're asking for submissions, when, we're making cool announcements like we're going to be at AvCon, things like that. So we do recommend that. Also, feel free to just shoot us a DM if you just want to chat. We're always open to having conversations with people. If you want to submit things, we have a really cool form on our website that you can fill out. And I'm always looking at submissions when I'm putting things together or just looking at submissions. I'm like, hey, let's find someone really cool this month. So yeah, that's probably the best ways to find us.
Excellent. And just as a final plug, where can we find you on the internet, on Instagram, on your website? What are those addresses?
Yeah, so it is Colin Magazine on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, although we don't really use the Facebook, so don't worry about that one. And our website is www.colinmagazine.com.
Awesome. I'm going to chuck all those links in the description down below, as always, so if you can't find it or your spelling's not that great, I got you. Don't worry. I'll put it in the description. But that's the end of our hour. Thank you so much for joining us, Remi. I learnt more about Colin than I ever knew before, and I think it's amazing what you guys are doing and putting out there and trying to achieve with just a community-based focus and wanting to uplift and inspire everyone around us onto the next generation of people and making it an artwork and a feature on a coffee table, because that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like a magazine which, your latest K-Zone, which is like, all right, I'm done with it. I'm wait for next month and throw it away. You want to keep it, sell it on eBay, maybe frame it. Who knows but that's kind of how it feels. Like it belongs on a shelf, which is fantastic. But again, thank you very much for joining us. Again, if you want to check out Colin Magazine, links in the description below. But if you got any other questions, send them to her. If you got any comments about how cool Remi is, leave us a comment down below. And if you got any other questions for them, also just put in the comments below and I'll put them through to the Colin Magazine team and we'll have a chat to them in another stage. But apart from that, thanks for joining us for this week's episode, guys. We'll see you again next week. Take care, look after yourself, love the people around you and love yourself. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.